Welcome to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam.
All right, our next talk is What the Fuck is Surge from David Leonardi from Nethermind. Thank you very much.
Hello. Hi, ETHDam. I'm David Leonardi. I'm a senior blockchain project manager at Nethermind. And my talk today is about Surge, which is a based rollup template that one of my teams at Nethermind has been working on for the past half a year plus. Let's talk about rollups. They say that rollups are just fancy multisigs, that they don't inherit from Ethereum security, and that they are slow. So today we'll look at these claims and identify some solutions to some of these problems. Let's begin, first of all, by understanding what rollups are and why they matter, and what the current solutions are and how they fall short. So Ethereum's base layer can only process so many transactions due to its decentralized nature. So Rollups has emerged as a solution to batching transaction off-chain and then posting compressed proofs back to Ethereum. This approach has been successful and increasing with throughput, but it comes with a critical design choice. And the basic concept is simple. So instead of executing every transaction on the Ethereum mainnet, Rollups execute them in a separate environment and then post these compact proofs back to Ethereum. So this increases the number of transactions that can be processed while it is inheriting security from Ethereum. Most rollups today use a centralized sequencer model. So you have like FIFOs or whatnot. And a sequencer essentially is a single entity which is responsible for collecting user transactions, determining the transaction order, and producing batches to submit back to Ethereum. And the centralized approach creates several serious issues. So first, it introduces a single point of failure. If the sequencer goes down, the entire rollup just stops processing transactions. Second of all, it creates censorship vectors. The sequencer can choose which transactions to include and which to ignore or delay. Third, it concentrates power in the hands of one entity, which can extract value through transaction ordering, similar to MEV issues that we see in Layer 1. Finally, it relies on reputation and feature decentralization promises rather than trustless mechanisms. And this is where the concept of based rollups comes in. So no, it's not just a theory. And the term based actually refers to based on Ethereum. So it leverage Ethereum's existing infrastructure for the critical function of transaction ordering rather than introducing a separate and centralized component. A based rollup takes a fundamentally different approach by eliminating the centralized sequencer entirely. Instead, it relies on Ethereum's own validators and block builders for transaction ordering. In this model, for instance, users will submit transactions directly to the L2 mempool, like here. And then searchers will come around and search for profitable bundles of transactions that can be sent back to the builder, which then orders the block and passes it to the proposer. A compressed state root is then passed back to the L2 and gets picked up by L1 searchers. Is passed down to the L1 and gets picked up by L1 searchers, which then gets included in L1 block, again via the same PBS mechanism, which is ultimately validated by the L1 validators. So it's fundamentally a different approach, and instead of creating a separate sequencing layer, we're using Ethereum itself to handle transaction ordering, and this is closely tied to the proposer-builder separation, PBS, right? Which is a concept in Ethereum's roadmap that aims to keep block building open and permissionless. Think of it as Ethereum-Native sequencing, so essentially we're leveraging the existing infrastructure rather than building a parallel system. The benefits of the system are profound. So first, there's no centralized entity that can censor or reorder transactions. So you can get a transaction into Ethereum and it will be processed by the rollup. Second, the security is identical to Ethereum itself. So based rollups inherit Ethereum's decentralization property directly. Third, there's no need for additional infrastructure or governance mechanisms for transaction ordering. You can just use what already exists. And lastly, the architecture is simplified and more cost-efficient because there's less overhead and less components. Based rollups are fundamentally aligned with Ethereum's values from day one, and they're pretty much as decentralized as Ethereum itself because they just leverage the same security and infrastructure. This approach really represents a return to the core principles, so decentralization isn't the future roadmap itself, but it's baked in really from the beginning. Let's talk about rollups. What are the properties that an Ethereum-aligned and neutral rollup should have? A rollup should be permissionless, trustless, censorship resistant, open source, performant, and anybody should be able to operate it. Let's talk about Surge. It's a rollup template for fully decentralized based rollups that unlocks GigaGas performance and is directly stage 2 from launch. So Surge is a fully decentralized based rollup template that delivers stage 2 from day 1, right? And it operates with a tokenless design using only ETH. It achieves GigaGas throughput through the Nethermind execution clients and has a 2 out of 3 multi-prover security model, all while maintaining complete alignment with Ethereum's core values of decentralization, security, and censorship resistance. So that's quite a bit, right? So let's try and break this down step by step and see why this matters and how we can create something that really innovates the rollup space. So how do we get here, actually? So we used the Tycho Lethia stack, which is currently the most mature production-ready and battle-tested grade-based L2 rollup, but we made a few modifications to it. So we replaced the finality gadget to remove all of their tiers, and instead we use a 2 out of 3 proof system. We replaced the bond from using the Tycho token to use only ETH. And we changed the split, the fee split to be like from 25-75% to be 100% of the base fee, which will then be burned, even though we reserve the right to change this on the mainnet deployment. We'll see how that goes. And we replaced the execution client from TychoGeth to the Nethermind execution client, which allows us to handle GigaGas. We also added extensive documentation to allow anybody to just come in and operate any component of the network or to just deploy their own Surge fundamentally and just try it out. So for those of you who don't know what stage 2 means, let's take a look at that. So L2 Beats is an independent organization that evaluates the security of layer 2 solutions, and they've defined a framework in which different stages of security are like explained, and stage 2 is the most rigorous. So stage 2 security includes that a rollup must have a 45-day exit window for any upgrades, giving users ample time to withdraw their funds if they disagree with any like protocol changes. There's no emergency powers, so there's no ability for anyone to force changes without going through the time lock. And lastly, there's limited governance. So the multi-sig can only queue upgrades, which then have to go through the 45-day time lock, but they cannot execute them immediately. And this really gives like security to the users. This means that from day 1, Surge provides one of the strongest possible security guarantees, and we're not asking users to trust us, but we're building a system that actually doesn't really require trust. And this is in stark contrast to most rollups, where often from the start, like the foundations operate with extensive admin powers and emergency backdoors, promising to remove them eventually, right? But we just fixed that in stage 2. We also don't have any token. It's tokenless. So unlike most L2s, Surge doesn't introduce a new token, and we just use ETH. So the ticker is ETH. This isn't just a philosophical choice. It actually eliminates any misaligned incentives that often come with their own token economics and speculative dynamics and just really issues from technical to economical. And it really aligns with the economical interests of Ethereum validators and users. So it also dramatically reduces overhead by avoiding token distribution, governance, and regulatory complexity. So it just makes it super easy. Next up is GigaGas. So the Nethermind execution client is able to handle GigaGas per second performance, as has been proven in the 1.30 release or 1.30 release on the base network. And this is mainly done, or this mainly happens because of like some technical optimizations and how the application is built. Oddly enough, it's .NET that actually provides some really great benefits. Yeah, it works. And lastly is our multi-prover security model. So we replaced the finality gadgets, and we now have a 2 out of 3 consensus model that requires that 2 out of 3 proof systems must be in agreement, right? So we have an SGX system, an SP1, and RISC-0. And this fundamentally eliminates any single points of failure. So in the proving layer, and creates a higher security thresholds than single prover architectures. And all of these systems can use different security assumptions and have, let's say, there's less attack surface because common vulnerabilities are minimized. The system also remains secure if one of the provers is compromised because it's 2 out of 3, and this actually provides much higher fault tolerance. So together, all of these innovations create a rollup that's both high performance and highly secure, really in line with Ethereum's core values. What can you do with Surge today? You can try it out. You can go to Surge WTF and you can check out the website, learn about it. You can come and deploy your own. You can run your own infra. You can read about it on the docs. You can bridge in, transact on it. and just see how it is. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the additional things that are coming with Surge, right? We call these power-ups. And these are kind of like upgrades in capability that will add more features. So we're going to add pre-confirmation soon, which will bring transaction speed to like, a few hundred milliseconds tops. We're going to optimize the proving mechanisms. We're going to like also improve the block building, and we're going to work on seamless L2 composability to like have more flourishing ecosystem. Yeah, so what's next for Surge? We really want the community to come and engage. This is really meant to be, let's say, a shared effort through the entire Ethereum ecosystem. So please come and deploy stuff on Surge. Just try it out. It's meant for developers. It's meant for builders. It's meant for tinkerers, right? It's not meant for end users. This is a Rollup template. Strong emphasis on that. And we're going to come and continue improving the finality gadgets and just make sure that that is more secure and more tolerant. But we also want the community to come and take over this Rollup templates and just do things with it. So we're not going to come and deploy yet another Rollup. That's not the business we're in. We're building a Rollup template, which we want the Ethereum community as a space to just take over. So one of these examples is Ethereum R1, which you may have heard of in the recent days. So the plan for Ethereum R1 is to use Surge as a network or as a Rollup template that is deployed on the chain. There's no governance. Again, the ticker is ETH. There's no token. It's fully community owned. It's run on donations, which will directly go into funding the further development and infrastructure that will be needed to deploy and operate the chain. And after 2030, like everything's just going to be burned, which is, yeah. There's no governance. There's no cult of personality. Like it's, purely for the community as a research project from builders for builders. Yeah, you can join us on this journey. Please check out this link. It'll take you to Surge WTF, where you can find all of the information about the project. You can read the docs. They're quite extensive. And again, you can bridge into bridge.hoodie.surge.wtf. You need some hoodie ETH. There's a link to a faucet. You can get some there. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
No?
Yeah, thank you. Does it work? Yeah, okay. How does decision-making work at a community-owned project without a token and without governance?
We are not in control of the deployed rollup that the community will operate, right? So it's up to the community to form its own consensus on how to operate things. So that is not the business of Nethermind to do. An example of what's happening right now within R1 is that there's a community that's forming, that's making decisions on how to operate the chain. But since we do not provide any alternative token, there's no misaligned incentive of, well, there must be like token where number go up. It's just ETH, right? So most people that show up there, it's quite interesting. It's just devs that do things for the sake of doing the right thing. And in that sense, I'm quite happy because we inspired builders to come and build awesome tech because it's the right thing to do. And that's exactly what's happening. So you're welcome to join those conversations and shape it yourself.
Hi. Does Surge use Suave for the auction mechanism?
I mean, it goes through PBS, right? So it's just searchers doing whatever searchers do and then proposing that or passing that to a builder. Okay. So what's behind that? It's really up to the builder themselves.
Okay, thanks.
Time for one more. Oh.
Maybe I could have missed it, but did you talk about pre-confirmations?
Yes, so that's still coming. So we're working on it. It's going to come in the next few months. The intention there is to have 200 milliseconds performance, ballpark. Nice. That's the number being whispered.
Nice. Thanks.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was excellent.
Thank you.